Good morning, everybody. We're going to begin this morning, our 10 o'clock briefing Wednesday. Today is December 21, and then next week we know City Hall non-essential services are closed between Christmas and New Year's, but we will have this briefing in some format somewhere. We're still working with our communications group, and we'll let the media and the community know. So I don't know if I mentioned, but I'm Peter Zanoni, the city manager for the city, and it'll be myself just doing some introductory comments this morning, and then we'll have Ernesto De La Garza, our Public Works Director, give us an update. And so what Ernesto is going to give you, the community, and through the media, and I want to thank the media, by the way, for being here. We know KIII and Chris Six is here, and others may be covering this as well from watching our live feed that we have on our social media channels. So it's important to let the community know what's happening. We're going to pretty much unedited tell you what's going on. We know that this bridge has about 10,000 trips a day, so it's an important corridor for persons that live on Flower Bluff or on the mainland side along Yorktown. We know that the numerous educational institutions that people go to and from every day, to include several schools and CCISD and Flower Bluff ISD, as well as some of our educational institutions to include TAMU CC, Texas A&M University in Corpus Christi, and Del Mar's brand new Southside or Oso Bay campus. So we also know people use the bridge to get to NASCAD, the Naval Air Station, for employment purposes, and that's important to us. So our goal that we established over a week ago was to be very transparent with the community, as is one of our basic business principles here at City Hall. We want to make sure the community is fully aware of what we're doing specifically at this bridge. And so at issue is the bridge has some deferred maintenance. We know that. That's why the sinkhole occurred. We're addressing those maintenance issues on the bridge and overall in our city's infrastructure system by putting massive amounts of money in our infrastructure. That includes roads, sidewalks, bridges, water and wastewater systems, our park systems. So the fact that we have decades of neglect is kind of an old story. What we're focused on is building a better business model at City Hall. And this city council, Mayor Guajardo, and the city council is committed to that. And that's shown by the tremendous investment that they have put into streets alone, over $336 million in the past 3 budget cycles to improve our street network and our community. So with Mud Bridge, we know that there's been reports from TxDOT. They do an inspection of that bridge every 2 years, and that report has some baseline findings about issues at the bridge, not only the embankment, but we're finding that the columns that hold up the bridge, it's a span bridge, have some issues too. And so Ernie is going to give us a pretty much play-by-play step of what's been happening since last week. I will tell you that the situation is a little bit worse than what we thought. And so we're going to share that today for the first time. We're not going to sugarcoat this. So there may be some different avenues that we have to take or different directions that we have to take depending on studies that happen. So Ernesto has a team out there looking at the columns, as we told City Council yesterday. They're on boats in the water inspecting the columns that hold up the bridge. Work is continuing on the embankments, but these inspections will be important because we know there's some deficiencies in at least 4 of the columns, but as Ernesto will tell us, there may be even more. And the extent of the decay in the columns could be something that we need to consider moving to a different plan. So we're going to share that with you this morning. And I'll be here, and Ernesto as well. I'd like to recognize Neiman Young, our assistant city manager that helps in the public works area. He's here as well. And our communications team, thank you for being here as well. So with that, we'll have Ernesto, our public works director and engineer, come up and give us the latest situation with the bridge.
Great, good morning. Ernie De La Garza, Director of Public Works. As city manager just mentioned, we do have some developments. The key thing is that we are holding safety as our number 1 priority. That's always been our first consideration when we decided to take vehicular traffic off of the bridge. At first it was a sinkhole, and the channel banks were the obvious concern, and that was what we put on the 1-month time frame. Moving forward, though, having had a discussion with our structural engineer this morning, he did find a considerable more amount of issues with the pilings underneath the bridge that raises concern as to our timeline. Currently, we do have an advanced funding agreement with TxDOT to replace that bridge in 2026. But based off of those findings, our concern is, are we going to go in there with repairs, maintenance repairs for the issues that we're finding to the point where it's cost prohibitive? In addition to that, will it extend our timeline? And so in having those discussions this morning with the Texas Department of Transportation, I did give them a heads up that we are going to formally request a follow-up inspection from TxDOT for a bridge inspection to advance that timeline for what is originally scheduled for 23. In addition to that, what they'll do is cross-reference our findings with our structural engineer, and then upon that inspection and those findings, we'll come to a conclusion as to what the next steps are. And so that step needs to take place. So I did, as I mentioned, TxDOT does have that information, and they do know that that formal request is going to come from the City of Corpus Christi. That being said, we will proceed with our original repairs on the channel banks in the event that TxDOT comes back and says, we find findings that are not as alarming as our structural engineer comes up with, but that is something that does have to be vetted with TxDOT and with our structural engineer. As far as the time frame for that process, that is still in development. Like I said, I just had those conversations this morning with the Texas Department of Transportation to give them a heads up that I will announce that at this press conference. We do understand the impact to the public, and we understand that there's a major inconvenience, and that's why we are speaking to TxDOT and advancing that to their leadership about the sense of urgency for the issue that we're dealing with on that bridge. As I said, we plan to work all the way up to Thursday on the channel banks, and then after the Arctic front, the contractor will resume work on Tuesday. And so that's the plan for right now as far as the channel banks are concerned. But that important collaboration with the Texas Department of Transportation does need to take place so that we know exactly what we're dealing with moving forward on those pilings and the bent caps of those bridges so that we can have a definite plan moving forward. That's right.
Can you talk a little bit about the reason the pilings are important for load bearing?
Yes,
Right.
yes. So as far as these pilings it's not a design where you drive the piles, have a footing, and then have a column. These pilings themselves are holding load. From my experience at TxDOT working with bridges, TxDOT has that internal expertise to see something that is structurally deficient and make the determination to say it does not look appealing, but it's still adequate to hold traffic. Currently, they have that expertise. We would have to consult that expertise and get those findings. So the columns are a major load-bearing component of the structure. In this situation, if you have a bent cap and you have 5 columns, the issue is the external column. The issue are with the external columns. So we're finding a loss of cover on the external columns that could cause concerns in terms of when traffic is loaded on those bridges. And then in addition, those columns transfer load from the superstructure to the bent, which is on top of those columns, down to the foundation. And so what's in between the bent and the water line is where we're finding majority of those issues. So that's why we are being very cautious about our angle of approach, and we're being very cautious about opening that bridge to any traffic moving forward.
Right. How many columns are there?
Currently, there are about 55 pilings underneath that bridge. And then I want to say something like 5 rows of bent. It's a 500 long bridge, 500-foot long bridge.
Yeah, about a tenth of a mile.
Yes, sir.
Right. And so right now, your inspectors are inspecting the bridge?
Currently, our engineering staff inspectors are currently inspecting the channel bank work. And then we did have a consultant and the contractor get together on a boat to head out to those columns or those columns underneath the bridge to do the inspection. They are currently doing that inspection. I did receive a call this morning. They were halfway complete with that inspection, and they had major concerns, and they were just halfway done. And so that was when I put the phone call into the Texas Department of Transportation to tell them that there is a incoming request for a formal inspection for that bridge inspection so that we can collaborate on findings.
Yep, provide a peer review of sorts on your inspection.
That is correct, right.
How long will our inspection take to be complete?
Our inspection should be done today.
Today?
We should be.
TxDOT hasn't told us when they'll be able to start there.
No, we've just had preliminary discussions with the Texas Department of Transportation. I did give them advance notice to hopefully expedite that request with their their bridge division in Austin, who are the individuals that will come down to Corpus Christi and perform that inspection.
Awesome, okay. And just one final time, so the crews won't work Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or Monday?
Correct.
Weather.
Correct.
And the holidays.
Right, they will not work, they'll stop work Thursday, and then they'll resume work Tuesday morning.
Right, and Friday morning is going to be below zero.
Correct, we are expecting an Arctic blast and not favorable conditions for construction.
Right, or safe.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I think that's it, right?
I believe so. I believe we covered the latest update.
Good, okay. Is there any questions from the media?
Yes.
ma'am.
Give or take, when was the bridge established?
1985 is when it was constructed, yes.
Constructed by TxDOT, a private contractor for TxDOT. TxDOT built the bridge. Councilman Smith was saying yesterday that there's a, let me just speak.
Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, Councilman Smith, who's our historian on City Council and also a resident of Flower Bluff and represents that area, said that initially there was a wooden bridge there many decades ago, and that was replaced by the most recent concrete structured bridge built in 1985. TxDOT funded the construction. It is, they deeded it over to, or they gave it over to the city to maintain, so it is a city bridge, but TxDOT was the agency that funded it, and they had a contractor build it back in '85.
So how soon is it going to be open?
Well, that's the thing. So what Ernesto's saying, our public works director, is we were on a 30-day time frame, assuming that the four pylons that we saw some obvious deficiencies on, some erosion, the concrete around the pylons. So the plan was initially fix the embankments, put a riprap system back, and fix those four columns. But they're doing a more thorough, we are doing a more thorough inspection of all the 55 or so columns. And what we're seeing is that, you know what, there may be more deficiencies than just the four. And so that work will be completed this week, today, tomorrow, from our own contractor that'll assess it. But in this bridge business, it's always good to have a peer review. And Ernie knows that well, being in this business for decades. And so he's asked TxDOT to get another company outside of the one we hired to peer review and do a separate inspection independent of ours to see how significant are the pylons that hold the bridge up. It's a tenth of a mile, so there's 55 of these. So if they're too far deteriorated, they can't hold the load of the bridge, meaning vehicles, think of heavy cement trucks that are in that area. Yorktown's one of our fastest growth areas, a lot of construction, and there could be not just vehicles, a car, but heavy trucks traveling that bridge. And so if the load is too heavy, you can have failure, basically. So what we want to see is how extensive is the deterioration in the pylons. We are seeing this morning and yesterday that it's more than four. We just don't know how significant it is, and we're going to have our work reviewed by another contractor through TxDOT. So if their findings are, you know what, there's a lot more problems than what we thought. The question, as Ernie mentioned, he said it may be cost prohibitive, meaning it may not be a good use of taxpayer dollars to repair the bridge in this great amount or this great magnitude. It might be cheaper overall for the taxpayer just to replace the whole bridge. So if that's the outcome, which we'll know when TxDOT's able to bring a contractor down from Austin, that's going to be a very different scenario beyond 30 days, obviously. So we don't know that today, but as we said, we're going to be transparent with the public. What we do know right now is the 30-day construction timeframe is still one we're working on. However, it may be a different scenario when we get these safety inspection reports for the pylons. Okay, any other questions, Lexi? Yes.
Did you say 2 years, every 2 years, or 10 years?
Every two years, yeah. TxDOT inspects the majority of our 68 bridges every 2 years. They have a bridge division, and that's something that they have done for probably many years. Ernie?
So the
Yeah.
last 2 years, or
Yeah, from 21 to today.
Right, yeah, so the last inspection was 2021, and I'm not sure if this was your question, but the answer may be that the report in 21 did not identify, probably it wasn't at that state, these significant deficiencies in the pylon. So since 2021, the bridge has gotten worse. And so the next inspection would have been in 2023, and most likely that report would have discovered these deficiencies that weren't in the 2021 because they hadn't occurred yet. One thing that we're doing because of this bridge is that we're kind of moving up our work plan of inspecting our bridges ourselves. We know that for the first time in the city's history now we have a stormwater program, and that's just a year old or young. And so there's a lot of work that program's doing to include ditch maintenance, stormwater clearance in our stormwater system so that when it rains, the water doesn't flood homes and so on. In our work plan was an inspection program, and we're going to move that up so that we can look at all of our 68 bridges to see how are we overall so we don't have a similar situation as what we're seeing on Mud Bridge. Mm-hmm. Yes, ma'am. Right.
You said that you have to estimate how much damages there are and how bad the deterioration is. But
Right.
how long, you said basically it'll take until the end of 2023, but your original plan was 26? Or can you kind of clarify on how long the inspections would take or how long?
Yeah, so not 2023, but our inspections of the pylons at that one bridge will be done this week. We're asking TxDOT to bring another firm in to peer review our analysis, and we don't have an answer yet when their work will begin. Once it begins, though, it's probably a week or so.
Maybe 2 weeks.
2 weeks or so for their inspection analysis to take place. So it'll be done within the next week or two. Mm. Hopefully. Yeah, we know it's the holiday season and so on. And then we'll know more, obviously, when that's completed. Good, any other questions then? Okay, we want to again thank the media, KIII, Chris Six. I'm not sure if I'm missing anyone. We know other media outlets watch this via our social media and report out as well. And then we have our social media network that will cover this live right now, and will be on our website recorded. So if somebody's at work and wanted to catch this briefing, they can always watch it. We're recording it now, and it'll be live on our website or a link. So we'll keep the community posted along the way, and we'll have another briefing next Wednesday, most likely right here. Yeah, so we'll be here next Wednesday at 10 o'clock. See you then. Thank you so much.